Welcome back, 8th graders. I am absolutely thrilled to be your teacher today as we set the stage for something, well, truly fascinating. Have you ever watched a gripping play or maybe read a fantastic script and wondered exactly how the writer managed to keep you totally hooked from the opening curtain all the way to the final bow? Well, today, we're going to unlock that secret. We are going to learn about the essential building blocks of drama, specifically acts and scenes. And I promise you, by the end of our time together in this explainer, you aren't just going to be reading plays anymore, you're going to see the hidden blueprint right behind them.
Okay, let's take a super quick look at our roadmap for today's lesson. We're going to start by exploring the building blocks of drama. Then we'll look at doing things decently and in order. After that, we'll check out some masterpieces in action, give you a chance to apply what you've learned, and finally, we'll wrap up with the godly learner.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the building blocks of drama. We are talking all about creating order out of total chaos. Now, when we look at a brilliant piece of dramatic literature, we aren't just looking at random words thrown onto a page. We're looking at a meticulously structured universe. Imagine just for a second, what if a play had no breaks, no scene changes, absolutely no structure whatsoever? Just think about the absolute chaos of watching an unstructured, never-ending performance. Actors would literally be running around frantically. The setting would suddenly jump from, a medieval castle to a futuristic spaceship without any warning. And you, sitting there in the audience, would be completely lost. You'd miss all the important shifts in time, place, or tone. It would be a total mess. And honestly, that is exactly why playwrights rely so heavily on acts and scenes.
So what actually is an act? Well, think of acts like the large chapters of a really good book. They set this massive, overarching framework for the play, dividing the whole story into major, digestible parts. In fact, most plays you'll ever read or see will cover their entire plot in anywhere from 1 to 5 acts. If we think of a play like a giant skyscraper that we're building, the acts are the massive foundational floors. So Act 1 might introduce our main characters and the big problem they're facing, right? While Act 2 might really crank up the heat and develop the intense conflict of that problem.
But inside those big acts, we have our scenes. Scenes are the smaller, much shorter sections within an act that focus on highly specific events. So going back to our skyscraper analogy, if the acts are the foundational floors, the scenes are the individual rooms built on those floors. A scene changes whenever the location or the time changes. For example, Scene 1 might happen in a cozy living room. Then boom, Scene 2 shifts to a sunny park. And Scene 3 could jump to later that exact same day in a really crowded cafe. Just to put these two side by side so we're absolutely clear, acts handle the broad scope. They deal with the major plot points of our story, like the big intro or the main conflict. Scenes, on the other hand, are highly specific. They pinpoint exact locations, times, and events. By understanding this structure, it's like having a map. You can easily track a story's progression and never get lost.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, decently and in order. Let's talk about the actual purpose of all this structure.
So, why do playwrights care so much about this? Why is pacing and order so much better than just creative chaos? Well, it turns out that playwrights are simply tapping into a fundamental truth about how the universe itself operates. 1 Corinthians 14:40 tells us, "But all things should be done decently and in order." God himself values order, logic, and clarity over confusion and chaos. When a writer sits down and organizes a script into clear acts and scenes, they're actually reflecting this exact godly principle of order.
On a purely practical level, there are a bunch of really great reasons playwrights use this ordered structure. First off, it perfectly organizes the story. Second, it helps you, the audience, process and follow the plot in smaller, meaningful parts, instead of just getting hit with an overwhelming avalanche of information. Third, and this is huge for the performers, it allows the actors to prepare emotionally and physically for whatever's coming next. And finally, it clearly marks those vital shifts in time, place, or tone. Basically, it keeps everyone, the writer, the actors, and the audience, perfectly synced up.
All right, let's move into Section 3, Masterpieces in Action. It's time for some real-world examples.
It's one thing to talk about acts and scenes in theory, but it's pretty incredible to see how legendary writers practically built their famous plays using these very blocks. Take William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Act 1 introduces this massive family feud and the famous meeting of the two main characters. But the scene changes within that act happen precisely when the setting shifts, like moving from a really tense street fight in one scene directly into the Capulet's elegant ball in the next. Or consider William Gibson's play The Miracle Worker.
He uses acts and scenes to show the gradual, just incredible transformation of Helen Keller as she learns language. Those specific scene changes perfectly mark the crucial light bulb moments with her teacher.
Another fantastic example is Thornton Wilder's classic play, Our Town. Just look at how beautifully he divides a massive overarching story into 3 distinct chronological stages of life. Act 1 focuses entirely on daily life. Act 2 jumps forward to love and marriage, and then Act 3 shifts into death and eternity. Do you see how those acts serve as major foundational chapters? It really is the perfect architectural blueprint for a story.
Now for Section 4, apply what you learned and putting you in the director's chair.
All right, now it's your turn to actively apply these concepts. For your homework assignment, I really don't want you to view this as a chore. Think of this as an interactive thought experiment, a real-world training blueprint for mastering drama. Step 1. In your own words, I want you to define act and scene. Step 2. Tell me why a playwright might choose to use 3 acts instead of just 2. Step 3. Give me an example of a scene change from any play you've read or seen. Step 4. Explain exactly how this structure helps the audience follow the story. And then, the most fun part, Step 5, I want you to create a short outline for your very own 2-act play, complete with at least 3 scenes in each act. Seriously, have fun with this and get creative.
And finally, Section 5, the godly learner. Let's talk about wisdom and choices.
As we start to wrap up today, I want to take a moment to look at how these academic skills connect directly to your spiritual maturity. The Apostle Paul writes in Romans 8, 6-7, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace."
And this brings us right to a core philosophy here at HeroesMart Academy. We intertwine biblical morality with education for a very specific, absolutely crucial reason, because education without morality can actually hurt. Just like a play needs a decent, ordered structure to make sense and avoid total chaos, you as a student need your mind centered on God's truth to navigate life safely. The goal of gaining knowledge and intelligence isn't just to make you more capable or, smarter than the person sitting next to you. The true goal of knowledge is to help you make wise, God-honoring choices.
So, as we close out our explainer today, I want to leave you with this final thought. You are the director of the scenes of your own life. As you pursue academic excellence and as you learn to build out your own future, how are you going to ensure your mind stays spiritually minded? How will you keep yourself centered on God, on truth, on wisdom, and righteous choices, so that your life story leads to life and peace? I really want you to think about that as you tackle your dramatic outlines this week. Keep learning, keep growing, and I will see you in the next explainer.